Hi, and welcome back to another Save It for Parts gadget review. Today we've got a cool shop upgrade courtesy of TwoTrees 3D. They make 3D printers, laser engravers, other CNC stuff, and today we've got a really cool package from them. Actually, 3 packages. Let's see what they've sent me. So what we have here in this collection of many boxes is the entertainingly named TwoTrees Burn Down Eternity laser engraver. I personally can't wait to start burning down eternity with this thing. Now, this is a pretty complicated unit, and again, it comes in all kinds of boxes, so we're gonna have a lot of assembly required here. I'm not even sure this is gonna fit on the workbench in my garage, and it definitely won't fit in the house. So we might have to get a special table for this, or we might just have to set it up on the floor for now if we can clean off enough floor space in the garage to fit this giant thing. So let's just take a quick look through here. We've got our manual, our instructions. We've got some components here. It looks like a track and part of the frame. We've got more track and frame. Third box of, it looks like more frame, some stepper motors, some more wires, some materials, all kinds of stuff in here. We've got an interesting little case in this one. This flat box has the working surface. All right, yeah, we definitely need to make some space for this, so I'm gonna clear off some of the floor so we can lay it all out. So what we've got is the TwoTrees TS2 laser engraver. It can engrave up to 410 by 410 millimeters. It uses a 445 nanometer laser. It's got an ESP32 motherboard and can use Mac or Windows to send files to it in BMP, JPEG, PNG, or even G-code. And it should be capable of engraving wood, plastic, paper, leather, sponge paper, aluminum, stainless steel, acrylic, glass, etc. Now, along with the laser engraver, which came in that biggest box, we got 2 additional accessories. We have the honeycomb platform in that flat box on the right, and then in the bottom middle, in that separate case, we have an air pump. Apparently those are optional accessories that TwoTrees included with this for me to try out. Now, this manual looks pretty good so far, but it is very detailed, and it looks like I will have a lot of installation and assembly to do. So we might go ahead and do a little time lapse of that, and then go from there. So I've got this mostly assembled. It's been about 2 hours so far, which isn't too bad. There are a lot of fiddly little parts. Some of the instructions aren't super clear, like how to route the cables, but on the whole, it's not too bad to assemble it. This little idler wheel is binding, and it appears to be slightly bent. So I'm not sure if it got damaged in shipping, or if it's a manufacturing flaw, or what's going on here. I'm going to see if I can just bend it back with pliers, and then it should freely move. I think we're done with the basic assembly of this unit. There really aren't instructions for the air pump. I think this little dingus screws into the laser assembly, and then the air pump hooks up through these tubes. I'm not quite sure if that's for cooling or for blowing away smoke or what that's for exactly, because it doesn't come with instructions. So I'll have to go on their website and find out what the air pump is all about. There's also not really any information on our grid honeycomb base thing here. Maybe it gives a nice non-flammable surface to fire the laser at. I definitely don't want to fire it at this cardboard. I laid down this cardboard box during my assembly just so I could keep all the parts here, keep everything clean, find small pieces if I dropped them. I still definitely lost a couple of the tiny bolts along the way and had to hunt around underneath everything. So if you're going to assemble this yourself, it really helps to put something down on the floor first. We have a couple other little parts left over. I never really used this tiny screwdriver, so I'm not sure what that's for. We have some extra cable ties. I've tried putting the cables somewhat out of the way, but a few of them are still a little messy. We haven't used this little wrench yet. Apparently there are some things you can adjust along the way. It mentions that a little bit in the manual, but I haven't quite figured out how you know when you need to adjust that. I guess we're gonna see if we can fit this up on the workbench, and then we're gonna look up what we do with the air pump, with the honeycomb grid, and install some software and try to burn some stuff. The TS2 barely fits onto my garage workbench, but it does fit. Now I might not leave it here long term because it is a garage, it gets dusty in here. I might have to find another home for it, or at least get a cover for it to keep the dust off. The memory card that comes with the TS2 includes some of the software you need to operate it. We also get some stylish laser-proof glasses with this. It's actually really hard to read the computer screen with these green glasses on, like everything just looks green. I've got my website logo here, and TwoTrees include a sampler pack of materials. We've got this cardboard stuff, we've got a little coaster, some dog tags, a couple different things we can try out. These seem almost like sandpaper discs. I'm not quite sure what these are for, if we're supposed to burn these or if it's to rough up some surfaces somehow. I'd like to start with something simple like wood. Now there wasn't any included in the sampler pack, but I found a piece of scrap wood in my junk pile, so let's try to make a little coaster with this. I looked into this grid a little bit more, and this thing combined with the metal plate underneath is designed to protect your working surface, so if you've got it on a wood bench like this, you're not just burning through into your bench top. These little screw things here, you can pop into the corners to hold down and orient your material, and then the laser has that little self-leveling probe in the back where it will help focus itself the proper distance away. Now if you do need to burn a particularly tall thing, they do sell some extra feet, or you could probably make some feet for this to raise the entire laser engraver up a little bit more. I'm using the recommended settings from the manual of 1000 millimeters per minute for speed, M3 mode, and 50% power. We're going to select Carve in Laser GRBL, so that should auto level and focus the laser here. So in Laser GRBL, we go to File, and we say Send to Machine. I don't know if this shows up on the camera, but you definitely get quite a bit of smoke coming off of this when working with wood. I definitely would not want to use this indoors. It needs to be in a well-ventilated area, or a shop, or a garage, or somewhere that you're not going to set off the smoke alarm, somewhere that you're not going to have smoke smell into all your stuff, or have complaints from the neighbors or your family or whatnot. I do think that having the air assist really helps with this. There is so much smoke coming off of here, and that little air compressor thing that they included is really helping move the smoke away from the work surface pretty quickly. So here is our laser burned piece of wood, and I'm honestly a little surprised how deeply it penetrated into this wood. I think I still need to do some adjustments on... I'm gonna turn off this fan. This thing's really noisy. I'd say this is pretty good for my first little laser cut product with the TwoTrees TS2. There's definitely some different amounts of burn in, different depths in here. I think I still need to play with some of the settings in the software. Again, this was done at 8,000 speed, 50% power, and yeah, I think if you wanted to get more of just a burned on pattern, you'd want even less power or more speed. If you wanted it to cut even deeper, you'd want longer dwell time and more power. I have this lovely award trophy here, and I'd like to put my own custom logo on the top. All right, we don't know exactly what this material is, so I'm gonna try that 8,000 speed, and we're gonna try 20% power. I think if it doesn't come out the way we want, we can run the laser over it again to make it a little darker. I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache looking at everything in this green tint. I'm supposed to be wearing these anytime the laser is on because any stray reflections could damage my eyes. I'm also supposed to not leave the laser unattended because if it gets stuck somewhere or if it hits a particularly flammable piece of material, we could have a fire going. It does have a flame sensor, so it should automatically shut off if there is a fire, but I still don't really want to leave it alone, and I don't want to wear these all day, so we might have to limit our time that we actually use this thing because, again, I'm just getting a headache from it. Even after 3 runs with different settings, it still has these kind of weird lines that it didn't zap out, so the E is a little messed up. We're back with the laser engraver. I emailed TwoTrees and they suggested I try the M4 mode, dynamic power. So we're going to try that, and we're going to engrave our same Save It for Parts logo again on a piece of wood and see how that compares. Well, that certainly looks more engraved and less randomly burned. I think that M4 power mode is the way to go, dynamic power. Now what about cutting? I've got this thin piece of trim strip stuff. It's way too long to really fit easily in the laser cutter. I was gonna slice off an end of it here on the table saw, but maybe we can just slice it with the laser cutter, just stick one end in, cut a piece off. I have to keep yelling over this thing because it is a very loud fan and a very loud air pump. I'm just gonna manually drive the laser over to the middle of the screen here and see if we can cut through this piece of wood. We didn't quite cut through our wood, but we did fill the entire garage with smoke. Actually, I spoke too soon. As soon as I picked this up off the laser, it just fell in half. So yeah, we did cut through the wood. We have a laser table saw now. Now that we have that nice sized piece of wood, I'm going to try a two-part process. I'm going to try engraving the lettering on the right at about 40 to 50% power, and then I'm going to try cutting the outline on the left, which is sized to go around those letters, and I'm going to cut that at 100% power. We've done the lettering, now we're going to try to cut out that oval box around it. So I'm going with a centerline mode, power 100, and time 250. I also made sure to crank up that air compressor all the way. And again, this is terribly smoky. I've had to make sure to take the batteries out of my smoke detector. Okay, we've moved outside to get away from the smoke and the fan noise. Oh. All right, well, the edges of my little plaque are definitely made of charcoal, but we did get a little plaque cut out. It's not super even. The cutting around the edge here is pretty patchy. I think I still have a lot to learn about the specific settings of this laser engraver to get this to look the best. I'm gonna need a lot more practice. Now, so far I've only been cutting wood because I've heard that certain acrylics, certain plastics put off a lot of bad fumes. And I know in general you're not supposed to breathe plastic fumes, so I hesitate to use this for any kind of plastic, any kind of acrylic, plexiglass, anything like that, especially indoors. It also came with these little metal dog tags, and it doesn't say what these are made out of. I suspect they're stainless steel because they're not magnetic and they're a little too heavy to be aluminum. The manual claims that this will engrave stainless steel if we use a speed of 6,000 and a power of 100%. So far it seems like the speeds and powers listed in the manual might not be totally accurate, but we're going to go ahead and try one of the stainless steel dog tags with the recommended settings and see what that looks like. We're also going to try the vectorize mode versus that line scanning, so we'll see if that looks any better on the metal. I realized that I forgot to level the laser, so I need to reset it to the thickness of this versus the thickness of that plywood I was using before. There's a lot of little gotcha steps along the way here. I almost need like a flow chart or a spreadsheet to know what steps to do to get a final product. You have to get it turned on, you have to set the air amount, you have to set up your working space, you have to level it, you have to set your speed, your power, your engraving type. There are a lot of parameters that go into this, and if you forget one of those steps, you get nothing. All right, well, it partly worked that time, although I had the opposite problem with the metal that I had with the wood. When I started out doing the wood and the cardboard, all my outside edges were burned because I think that there was some dwell time with the laser going back and forth. You'd basically double up the power on the edges. With the metal, all the edges are not cut. And that was with the dynamic power mode. So apparently I need to be using constant power mode on metal and then the dynamic power mode on everything else. Again, this is stuff that isn't really clear from the manual, so I have to just find this stuff out by trial and error. Okay, this is looking better. This is about the fourth time I've tried this. There was a little bit of scorching or discoloration around the edges, but I just wiped that off with my t-shirt, and yeah, now we've got a decent little key ring. I don't know if the camera will focus on that, but it looks pretty good to me. And no, I'm not going to start selling these. This is kind of a hassle to make each one of these. You can buy my shirts and stickers over on Spreadshirt, though. I'll throw the link down in the description for that. I've heard that desktop stencil makers or cutting machines are pretty popular right now. Let's dial back the power and use it to cut cardboard to make a stencil. We had to try that a couple times because the settings were not correct the first time. What seems to be working is 100% power, 6,000 speed, vector mode. However, the cardboard is super thin and it started to warp, probably from the heat during the cutting process. So towards the end there, the thing knocked into the cardboard, started to slice through it in the wrong spots, and I had to hit the emergency stop. That's where those little hold-down pegs would have come in handy. I didn't use them this time, and I should have. But I think we still got our stencil here. We've got a decent-looking stencil. How about fabrication? I've heard of laser cut products, and the hardware store has these nice thin pieces of plywood. I'm gonna look for a template online and see if we can make something three-dimensional from this. All right, yeah, it lost its homing there and started just laser through the desktop, so let's start that again. So I'm trying to make full use of the work area here, or at least about half of the work area. I'm running into a problem in that my material is not completely flat. I've got this piece of wood on the work surface and it's just very slightly warped. So there are certain sections of the wood that are a little bit higher than others. So it's having trouble leveling and focusing, and then as the laser head moves around, it actually bumps into the wood occasionally. So yeah, this is a problem when using very, very large sheets of material. Once again, it has lost its homing. So yeah, we're gonna have to close the program, restart the program, and start this all over, because yeah, something's screwed up here. All right, third time's the charm, or maybe it's fourth time now. I think we're gonna have to leave the room here. It is getting way too smoky. Oh, I don't want to leave the room because it's actually blasting through the wood into the workbench again, and I don't want to start a fire. Well, this isn't too bad for our first try at laser cutting. I messed up a couple things. I should have used centerline instead of vectorize. When I did vectorize, I ended up with this sort of extra little outline around everything, but yeah, it just slowed me down a little bit. And then I had a couple spots where it didn't cut quite correctly, but I think I can just clean that up with a hobby knife. And there we go, we have a laser birdhouse for laser birds. So this is a very versatile machine. It can engrave, it can etch, it can cut. It does just about everything but slice bread. Save it for toast. We're going to try this coated aluminum sheet, and I'm going to try to make a sign suitable for use outdoors or underground in a challenging, humid environment. We want something that's going to last longer than a wood or paper sign, and it'll look better than a laminated sign. Yeah, this looks like a pretty nice metal sign. I did this with 15 quality, so 15 lines per millimeter. I used the dynamic power mode, but it looks like it's still got a little extra burn right at the edges. So as the laser goes back and forth, you basically are doubling up the laser blast at each end of the run. I also used the recommended settings for powder-coated metal in the manual, so 8,000 speed and 50% power, and that seems to have worked just perfectly in this case. I've been playing with the TwoTrees TS2 for a few days now, and I've produced quite a wide range of products from it. We've got a sign, an award, a birdhouse, a stencil, various engraved pieces of wood, and even a piece of bread. Well, I'm very happy with the TwoTrees TS2. This is a very powerful laser cutter, very flexible. It does all kinds of stuff that is going to be really helpful around the shop. It can cut, it can engrave, it can burn. I've got all kinds of ideas for this thing, so this is not just going to be a one-off review and then it goes in a box somewhere. I'm actually going to be using this on the channel to fabricate parts for my projects, to do crafts, to do all kinds of stuff around here. For example, I've got a project right here behind me, the cyber deck. Now, I made these custom panels in the past. Previously, I made this by dremeling out a piece of plastic, making a sticker, printing the sticker with all of these labels on it, and then drilling out the individual holes. And that took all day to fabricate one little panel here. It still doesn't line up correctly, and in fact, it's falling out of the case. So this needs to be redone. With that TS2, I could do the engraving, the lettering, the hole cutting, the carving out all in one go, and it would probably take me 15 to 20 minutes to make one of these. So if it didn't fit quite right, I could go back into Photoshop, redo the file, laser it out again, and have a rapid prototyping for my next iteration of the cyber deck. So that's probably something you'll see in a future video. Again, I'm really looking forward to integrating this thing into my projects, into my workflow. Honestly, I can think of way more uses for this laser cutter than I could think of for any of my 3D printers. Now, there are a few downsides to this unit. It's definitely got a learning curve. It took me a lot of practice, a lot of fiddling around to get the settings just right. All the settings mentioned in the manual are rough guides. They're not exact, and they don't work with every material in every situation. So there will be some practice. You'll probably ruin a few pieces of material getting those laser settings right, getting that focus right, getting the dwell time correct, getting all the other settings correct. So just be ready for that. Try out some scrap material first just to see how it burns, which settings do what you want, and then move on to the nice piece of wood, the nice piece of metal that you actually want to use. The other main drawback for this is just how smoky it is. The super powerful laser combined with that powerful air pump are great for cutting, for engraving, but they fill your entire workspace with smoke. So this is not really appropriate for an apartment, for inside your house, or even in an enclosed garage without a major fume hood or extraction fan, some kind of really beefy vent fan. And I would not want to do any kind of plastic or acrylic with this without that vent fan. I don't know if a kitchen range hood would work. I kind of suspect it wouldn't be enough. Our kitchen range hood in the house barely keeps up with cooking bacon, and our smoke detector goes off pretty much anytime we turn the stove on. So I would never use this inside. I would definitely not use it on my household range hood. I'm thinking about trying to find a surplus industrial or medical vent hood or fume hood that I can use. It just has to be big enough to fit the laser engraver. Another issue I encountered with it is that every now and then it loses its home setting, especially if you've moved the laser out manually to get it level in the center of your work area, or if you're trying to get it to show you the outline of your work area. It occasionally forgets where home is and it just drives off to the side, bumps into your material, pushes it off the workspace. That's probably user error on my part because, again, there's still a learning curve. I'm still learning what all the settings are. It seems like if you reset, if you reopen your image file and put all the settings back to what you wanted, that, yeah, it'll go back to home and it'll work properly that time. But just be prepared to hit that emergency stop button if it starts driving too far off the workspace. I think most of those downsides could be eliminated with a little more practice, plus a really good fume hood. On the plus side, this again is very powerful, very flexible in what it can do, engraving, cutting, burning. It can handle all kinds of materials up to and including metal. It's got a huge working area, which honestly I have not taken full advantage of. The biggest thing I cut out was that birdhouse, and that was still only about 60 to 70% of the work area. So I have not taken full advantage of the size of this thing in how large it can cut things or engrave things. I could make really big signs if I had enough material for it. If I did that, I would have to get probably a bigger honeycomb structure. I think I did actually slice through a couple corners of the honeycomb structure. Other than that one little idler wheel that was bent, I didn't have any mechanical issues with it. I didn't have to adjust any of the wheels. I didn't have to really change anything about the mechanics. It worked right away. It's been continuing to work. I haven't heard any grinding noises. As far as the quality of the materials, those seem just fine. Quality of the motors is great. Quality of the gears and everything else seems very good. So overall, yes, I would recommend the TwoTrees TS2 as a great all-around in laser engraver and laser cutter. I would say great for the home, but you don't want to use it in your house. So I would say great for your workshop, great for your small industry, great for your lab, great for anywhere that you have or can install a vent fan. Now again, this was a sponsored review because TwoTrees sent me this unit to try out. I try to be very fair, very honest. I give you the negatives as well as the positives. And again, I think the positives on this outweigh the negatives. So I would recommend this. I really like it. I'm going to use it for a lot of stuff. If you'd like to buy a TwoTrees TS2 or one of their other products for yourself, I'll throw all the links down in the description as well as any other information they send me, and you can go check them out for yourself. Thank you again to TwoTrees for sending me this. They contacted me months and months ago, actually before my channel even got very big. So thank you to them for having confidence in me that the channel would grow and that this would be something useful for me. Generally, when I do one of these sponsored reviews, I tell the company it's going to be 8 or 10 minutes. This one I think is going to be a little longer because there's so much to do with it. I've done so much with it, and yeah, it's a really cool product. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.